This month on the 11th, a writer named Sarah shares the story of a false accusation of sexual misconduct. And then her inbox is flooded with hundreds of other people saying they too have been falsely accused. A professor, a federal government whistleblower, a candidate for sheriff. What responsibility does she have to these other stories, these other people? Was it her role to decide who's telling the truth? That's this month on the 11th, a new podcast from Pineapple Street Studios.
Don't!
This is one of old Hollywood's wildest scandals.
A story about my grandparents, film producer Walter Wanger, and actress Joan Bennett. I'm Vanessa Hope.
And I'm Karina Longworth. Together with Vanity Fair and Cadence 13, we'll tell this untold story, a film noir played out in real life.
Introducing Love is a Crime. Tune in at listen.vanityfair.com/loveisacrime.
Or wherever you get your podcasts.
I want you to know that the mothership has landed.
It's DA on CBS Sports Radio.
What's up, my brother? I want permission to come aboard the mothership.
Asking permission to join a sports talk spaceship? Well, we're all a little crazy. The mothership has connected.
The mothership.
Let's come aboard.
Happy Thursday to you, North America. The mothership has connected. Welcome aboard. It's the 4-hour Chaos Theory Kegger. DA with you from the CBS Sports Radio studios in New York, broadcasting to affiliates nationwide and north of the border. Anchorage to Atlanta, Peoria to Pinehurst, Kalamazoo and Waterloo, way are on the air.
They listening, D.A. Everything we saying, D.A. Everything.
And we come to you live from the Rocket Mortgage Studios. Need to know what it takes for a home to fit your budget and your family? Well, guess what? Rocket can. How we doing, everybody? We are happy to be here this morning and a good show lined up for you. Coming up this morning, plenty of college football ahead of this weekend's Week 0 is what they call it, because not every college football team in America is in play this weekend. Next weekend, everybody will open up. So next weekend's Week 1. This is Week 0. There's still 5 FBS games on the docket, and I bring you the first episode of the 2021 Tasty Top 5. I will rank my 5 favorite matchups of the college football weekend each and every week throughout the season. And since there's 5 this weekend, we'll do a top 5 today. Also, speaking of college football, he is a standout defensive back for the UCF Knights. The Knights, one of the premier group of 5 teams in America, and they've got a huge opener against Boise State at the Bounce House next weekend in Orlando. Joining us is going to be one of the best safeties, defensive backs in the AAC. We're going to be joined by Devad Wilson of the Knights coming up here on the show next hour. Also, we'll talk about Bob Bowlesby and Greg Sankey, commissioners of the Big 12 and the SEC, respectively, responding to the Alliance press conference, not the AAF, Alliance of American Football, RIP, but instead the ACC, Big 10 and Pac-12 Alliance. We've got quarterback decisions in San Francisco, seemingly, in Denver and Jacksonville officially, so we'll do that as well. And Sounds of Saturday takes us to College Station, Texas, where the voice of the Aggies, Andrew Monaco, is going to join us on the show coming up in hour number 4. And does a future Hall of Fame NFL quarterback hate fat people?
You need to eat like this. You need to eat like this.
It is something that I know many of you have been wondering about for a really long time. Does a certain future Canton-bound quarterback hate fatties?
Puffiness with sodium.
Does this man despise roly-polies?
So many different emotions on so many different levels.
You're so damn fat.
We've got the quote, and we'll answer the question coming up in 40 minutes from now. That's all straight ahead here aboard the mothership this morning. So hit us up on the phones on any of those topics at 855-212-4CBS. That's 855-212-4227, or on Twitter, DA on CBS. Follow me and tweet at me there, DA on CBS.
Itchy nipple chub rub.
But
I look like the fattest lord ass that ever walked through CBS Sports Radio.
People get fat sometimes. What are you going to do?
Fat.
What a way to begin this morning. Wow. Didn't see it starting off that way, but sometimes things just happen.
Yeah, I just woke her up.
Fat.
That's nasty, stinky Paul Pierce.
Fat. I was so embarrassed. I really wanted to cry, but I couldn't do anything about it. French fried.
All right, so let's start in Cleveland. Whereas his face is already pinkish. The hue is pinkish, and he's shaking his head. What are you guys doing to me this early in the morning?
We got a cold open here. Let's go.
In Cleveland, big expectations. Last year, the Browns finally making the playoffs in nearly 20 years. And winning a playoff game, embarrassing, humiliating their arch nemesis for years, the bullies on their block, the Pittsburgh Steelers. So the Browns, arrow pointed up. And the one thing you can say about the Browns each and every year around this time of year has been, it's interesting. For good, for bad, for better, for worse. The Cleveland Browns are always, around this time of year, interesting. Now, that has meant weird coaching decisions, bizarre press conferences, contract holdouts, bold proclamations. It has always meant there's something. Back in the Hard Knocks days of Hugh Jackson, we got to see friction within the franchise and coaching staff in real time. You've had Baker Mayfield out of shape. You've had Odell Beckham. Will he, won't he? Who's happy? Who's not? Who gets the ball? Can they win? Will they make a change? Is this finally the year? Is this the right head coach, the right GM? It's always something. And you would imagine coming off a season where they actually won a playoff game, it would be ratcheted up even louder. But instead, the obvious is not there anymore. The Browns being splashy headlines, something that we all point to every single day throughout training camp of the preseason, isn't there. In fact, the exact opposite is in play. Nobody's talking about the Browns. It's quiet in Northeast Ohio, which makes you wonder, is silence golden? Are the Browns finally, quote, normal? It is where we begin your cold open.
It is the absolutely most normal Browns team I have ever covered in my entire career. And as you know, that's a very, very long time. You look out there on the practice field, and there are good, really good football players everywhere, at every single position. There's depth. There's coaching. It just has everything. And in addition to that, there's just not all the craziness that's gone on in the past. I mean, no one's floating around on a swan. There are so many things that are good about this football team. And finally, these Browns fans are going to get what they've deserved for so long. Just a consistently good team that is going to contend for a long time.
I don't believe it!
The most amazing, sensational, dramatic, heart-rending.
It's DA's top story.
Here he goes!
It's your cold open.
Well, that is longtime beat reporter for the Browns, Mary Kay Cabot, who joined Amy Lawrence right here on CBS Sports Radio. And when she says nobody's floating around in a swan, that's a reference to Johnny Manziel spending a weekend in Vegas floating on a swan and an inflatable one. And it underscores right now that the Browns are in a really good place. And I think last season, the way that season unfolded, where a good team with a good roster actually lived up to expectations and finished off the season on a high note with a win over the Pittsburgh Steelers in runaway blowout fashion before the loss to Kansas City in the divisional round, suggests that the Browns kind of ripped off a Band-Aid. That there was all of this pressure building over the years. When will they get back to the playoffs? When will they be in the postseason? Can they finally turn the corner? Can we finally have a winner in Cleveland? And it bubbled. And then last year, finally, the top popped off. And so now you can exhale and go, okay, we've crossed that. We've jumped over that hurdle. That line of the sand, we're now beyond. And then the second thing is, it takes a head coach that is steady and smart. And that's exactly who Kevin Stefanski is. I never, ever, ever trusted Freddie Kitchens as the guy to be able to steward this franchise through all of the turbulence and headlines and attention and pressure that was inherently going to be there because of the drought of making the postseason for so long. Kitchens was not wired the same way that a really good coach is wired to navigate that type of stuff. But Stefanski is. Stefanski is Ivy League educated, has a football background, though, coming from a player's perspective, but is also truly even keel and professional, and installed a certain way of doing things that just felt like it was foreign to the Browns for so long, as they just spun the wheel of chumps as head coach for years. Chazinski, Shermer, Hugh, on and on, up to Freddie Kitchens. Even before that, it was a never-ending carousel of complete bozos. And then you have Kevin Stefanski walk in, and he was very highly considered throughout the league. He was a guy that was a coordinator, and so he did have some responsibilities over an entire unit, but he also had the demeanor that was, forget about all the outside stuff. Let's forget about the pressures, the expectations. Let's just do what we do well, and I'm going to enhance what we do well to the next level. And they did exactly that. And Stefanski very patiently said, we're going to run the football. We're going to establish our ground game. We're not going to make Baker do a million things that he's not ready to do just yet. We're going to let Baker be in some ways a passenger. We're going to convince Baker that's an important part of his arsenal, not having to be the hero, not having to be the man. Baker grew up as well. Myles Garrett turned into a premier elite edge rusher. The two running backs turned into two of the best running backs in football, certainly as a tandem. And on it went, where the Browns just became a professional outfit. And that has so much to do with Kevin Stefanski. So when we sit here on August the 26th, just a couple of weeks away, 2 weeks away from kickoff of the NFL season, what it feels like is the Browns know who they are finally. And they've gotten the big one off of their back, which was just making the playoffs and being a winner. And now they can settle into just being a really good football team. And Browns fans finally have a winner to get behind. They're, quote, normal. And normal's a good thing in Cleveland. Just being normal is refreshing for Browns fans. 855-212-4CBS. 855-212-4227 on the phones, or on Twitter, DA on CBS. Again, DA on CBS. Is Cap asking on our chat, what the hell is happening because we had me and the body doing dueling chubby drops?
Yes. I can only assume because I sat here wondering what the heck is happening as well.
Well, we have a story coming up in 25 minutes that involves a future Hall of Famer taking what appears to be a pot shot at those who are overweight.
I would agree. I'm excited for that story. I don't know that prompted 74 me being fat drops to start the show, but we'll see.
Well, it was just to highlight the story coming up at 40 minutes past the hour where a living legend takes seemingly a shot at Husky people.
You know what?
It's a hard candy.
Play as many drops as you want. Your use of not forcing the word husky there was so perfect that you're back on the good side.
Rigmarole going on here.
That's all it took?
Hefty? Well, because I could tell you didn't hesitate to say husky. You said it like you say it in conversation. And I think that knowing you and your relationship with husky people and the language around husky people, I thought that was a very nice step forward for you.
Ho, ho, ho.
My relationship with husky people? What exactly? How would you define that?
I would say this. I get the vibe sometimes in your language surrounding the husky people that you might fall in line with this quarterback in a little bit of a disgust for said husky people.
The language of the husky people?
Well, I don't know how else to say it. I'm not going to say the F word and set a bad example.
I wouldn't either.
But you didn't hesitate. You didn't stumble in and go, I mean husky. You're fluently saying that, which means you're taking steps as a man, and I appreciate that.
Oh, valid points.
Progress.
When we come back here on the show, your best audio of the day. That includes why the Rams added Sony Michel yesterday. And in Tennessee, they're fired up because the Vols are doing all of the little things. Like
Don't! This is one of old Hollywood's wildest scandals.
A story about my grandparents, film producer Walter Wanger, and actress Joan Bennett. I'm Vanessa Hope.
And I'm Karina Longworth. Together with Vanity Fair and Cajuns 13, we'll tell this untold story, a film noir played out in real life.
Introducing Love is a Crime. Tune in at listen.vanityfair.com/loveisacrime.
Or wherever you get your podcasts.
This month on the 11th, a writer named Sarah shares the story of a false accusation of sexual misconduct. And then her inbox is flooded with hundreds of other people saying they too have been falsely accused. A professor, a federal government whistleblower, a candidate for sheriff. What responsibility does she have to these other stories, these other people? Was it her role to decide who's telling the truth? That's this month on the 11th, a new podcast from Pineapple Street Studios.
We're all on this planet together, so join Odyssey and find your one thing. August is a great month to help out the environment by improving your gas mileage. Make sure your tires are properly inflated, and heavy items like golf clubs aren't stored in your trunk. Take your car in for a tune-up to ensure it's running at peak performance. And when the weather is nice, walk or bike to your destination to enjoy a beautiful summer day. Join Odyssey, and together, each of us doing one thing makes a greener tomorrow. What's your one thing?
Timing stares well. It's Soundcheck. It's next. DA, CBS Sports Radio.
I am very loose.
CBS presents this program in color.
An educated person can't think he's going to get a recruit by strippers coming in.
They can fire you, but they can't eat you.
And they run through our ass like through a tin horn, man, and we could not stop them.
The audio you need to hear. It's DA Soundcheck.
Now remember, you can listen to the show in podcast form. That's the DA Show on demand. Listen to the full 4 hours or the best of the DA Show each and every day by simply going to your favorite podcast platform and searching the DA Show. Subscribe, rate, and review. That helps other people find the podcast. Soundcheck begins with Les Snead, the Rams GM, on why they traded for Sony Michel for 2 late-round draft picks from the Patriots the other day.
We identified Sony for many reasons. Number one, being right, his experience, and experience meaning like a player who's carried the ball in big games. In those big games, there's been big moments, big drives, big series, the experience of where he played, how he was coached. So, he was one of those players. If we were going to go the route of experience, he was someone that we were definitely eyeing from the start.
Well, with the injuries that the Rams have had at the running back position, specifically because of Cam Akers' injury, that left them thin already. And then Darrell Henderson, who's day-to-day with a thumb injury, they had to do something. And so bringing in a running back who's just 26 years old and is only 4 years into the NFL, you would hope he's got something left in the tank. The issue is that the value of Sony Michel is so low, he's only worth, after being a first-round draft pick, a couple of late-round picks. I mean, to me, it kind of suggests that there might not be anything left for Sony Michel, but what Snead is saying is because of his experience in big games, he was part of the team that won the last Patriots Super Bowl over the Rams a couple of years ago. I think it's fine. I don't think it's any type of great shakes at running back for the Rams. I don't think Michel's suddenly going to be rejuvenated into having a big season, but I also don't think that the Rams gave up too much to get him. And so it's fine, but I think it also suggests that if you are an NFL team and you're trying to create depth at the running back position, just keep scouting late-round draft picks and undrafted free agents, because there's just so many of them that can flash. There's so many of them that can come out of nowhere. There's so many of them that can do a good enough job to slap it together. And it's kind of classic Rams to just rather trade away draft picks than just simply kind of find the next guy on the undrafted rookie free agent heap or scout team guy or later round draft picks, because do you really need Sony Michel versus a guy that right now is on, just say, the Browns practice squad? I don't know. But it's fine. The Rams obviously want to create some type of balance in their offense. But remember, with Matthew Stafford there now, their passing game should be far superior to what it's been the last couple of years with Jared Goff. Here is Tom Brady on what it's like to be going to work every single day in his mid-40s as a starting quarterback.
It's a continuous mental, physical, emotional challenge. You have to bring it every day. And not only you, but you got to figure out how to get your teammates there with you. And I have a great group of teammates that bring it every day. And I want to be accountable to them, and I want to be the best I could be for them. And it motivates me to show up every day and work my tail off.
Tom Brady is, beyond his achievements in the NFL, is remarkable and memorable and a legacy type of guy for obvious reasons, accomplishment-wise. But beyond that, simply because his fire, his drive, his ambition, his work ethic is as high as any player in NFL history. Of course, it's easier today than ever to play quarterback in the NFL in terms of longevity. You don't get hit high, you don't get hit low, you can't basically get hit at all. Science and wellness is better than ever before. The rules stipulate that the one position on the field that's kind of consistently protected is obviously the QB. So he benefits from just timing, benefits from where he ends up in the grand scheme of things. If Tom Brady is a quarterback in the 70s, he's not playing until his mid-40s. But by virtue of playing into your mid-40s, you also have to love it more than anybody else really loves it at that age, or at least close to it. And for all of his accomplishments in winning, he's still got to want to have a drive and a motivation to keep doing this. There's a lot of reasons not to do it. In fact, I would argue there's more reasons for Tom Brady not to keep playing than there is to keep playing. There's really nothing left. He has put the total Super Bowl wins by a quarterback out of reach, in my estimation. In terms of Super Bowl appearances, out of reach. In terms of longevity, already out of reach. I suppose you could want to be chasing all those all-time stats that Drew Brees now has, but I think that it's beyond just wanting to accumulate stats. I think it's that Tom Brady really earnestly would kill himself to be on a football field no matter what the stakes were every single day. And that's just a drive that very few, if anybody, ever has had. He's just never been satisfied. Which in some ways, as I've stated before, I think is a little bit sad. There's got to be some type of satisfaction of what you've accomplished. There shouldn't always be a hole. There always shouldn't have to be something else to do. There should be some level of satisfaction, but perhaps that comes with Brady after retirement. And finally, here's Tennessee's new head coach, Josh Heupel, who is all fired up about how well his team is taking to instruction and the culture that he's instilling in that locker room. In fact, they're not only competing on the field right now, trying to drag the Vols program out of the depths of the SEC, but they're competing in just about everything.
I love this team's effort and energy, the way that they've learned how to approach walking up the stairs and going to meetings and being consistent in those competitive behaviors that you got to have. During the course of training camp, throughout summer, throughout spring ball, we've gotten better, man. I think about the first day of full pads in spring ball and where we are today, we've continued to grow.
Man, that is so huge. I want to play Josh Heupel one more time because I just want to once again remind Vols fans and the rest of the SEC what's happening in Knoxville. You've got guys competing every single day. You've got guys since spring ball instilling a work ethic and a focus that they haven't seen on Rocky Top in many, many years. They are not only busting their butt on the football field, but they're also taking the stairs well.
I love this team's effort and energy, the way that they've learned how to approach walking up the stairs and going to meetings and being consistent.
They're approaching walking up the stairs and going to meetings well. So if you think if you think the Vols are a pushover anymore, well, you're sadly mistaken. The approach is so different with the Vols now. They're walking upstairs as a team.
I love this team's effort and energy, the way that they've learned how to approach walking up the stairs and going to meetings.
They're walking up the stairs, going to meetings together. That's leadership. That's teamwork. That's focus. That's the little things. You think not turning the football over on the road in Athens, Georgia is big? I'll tell you what else is big. That all begins with walking up the stairs right.
Walking up the stairs and going to meetings.
If you're walking up the stairs and going to meetings, everything else is easy.
Walking up the stairs and going to meetings.
Yeah, you might have had your brakes beaten off by the SEC over the last 10 years, but it all starts with a single step. And that step is the first stair to the first meeting.
Ho, ho, ho.
Walking up the stairs and going to meetings.
And that's your sound check. Today, make today a win. Walk up the stairs to your office with focus. In fact, today, when you're getting the kids ready for school or camp, when you got to walk up the stairs to go clean the snot out of their nose, make sure their teeth are brushed, you know what you do? You look at that stair and say, I'm going to attack this stairway up to the bedroom before we get to the SpongeBob toothpaste.
Walking up the stairs and going to meetings.
You got that little 3 stairs type of thing from the garage up to the basement doors. You know what? You make sure when you walk down to take out the garbage or you walk up to come back in the house, you've attacked those stairways. You've attacked those 3 steps with focus and the right approach.
Walking up the stairs and going to meetings.
That's your day. That's how you'll make today a win. Standing by with your headlines, a guy that is not taking any stairs these days because he's refusing to come back to the office with us. A kind sir, Andrew Bogish. AB, good morning.
DA, good morning. And just for the record, there are stairs in my house. I have to walk down from my bedroom to my little mini studio here. I walk up to the kitchen. There's plenty of stairs these days for me.
How's your approach on those stairs?
You know, I'm committed. I really am. I want to get up the stairs as fast as possible. I come down a little more gently. You don't want to twist an ankle, mess up a knee on the way down. I don't want to get hurt coming to my studio. So the focus probably goes up a step or two, pun intended, on the way down to make sure there are no accidents.
Okay.
Walking up the stairs and going to meetings.
Excellent. That's
For my younger audience.
The type of professional that Andrew Bogusch is.
Yeah, you ask if we're journalists, and here's me being a journalist by making sure I don't fall down the stairs and miss my shift.
So last night, how late did that thing go between the Dodgers and Padres?
It's like you can see my script. It ended at 3:59 a.m. Eastern. The Dodgers and Padres just kept playing and playing and playing in San Diego overnight.
Going to be Green's 12th pitch to Frazier. Ground ball to short. Backhanded by Seager. And the long national nightmare is over. The Dodgers win their 80th game, and it took nearly 6 hours to do it.
Somebody put Charlie Steiner to bed. The Dodgers
really.
left standing 5-3 after 16 innings and 5 hours, 49 minutes. This, yes, the longest game under the new extra inning rules. 19 pitchers threw 489 pitches in this one. The LA bullpen allowed just one hit over 9 1/3, but that one hit was Fernando Tatis's tying 2-run homer in the 15th inning. A.J. Pollock's 2-run shot, top 16, was finally the difference. The Rockies split their doubleheader at Wrigley with a 13-10 win in 10. The Marlins snapped their 8-game skid, 4-3 over the Nats, and the Twins outscored the Red Sox 9-6, those games going 10 innings as well. The Orioles rallied past the Angels 10-6 to end their 19-game losing streak, and the Brewers beat the Reds 4-1, extending their NL Central lead to 9.5 games. Milwaukee righty Brandon Woodruff struck out 10 over 6 shutout innings. It was Name Your QB Day in Jacksonville with Trevor Lawrence and in Denver with Teddy Bridgewater, but not in San Francisco.
I look at more as what do you gain by naming it? You know, there would be one reason I can think of by naming it that would help, and it'd be to end those questions. If you could give me another reason that's a big advantage that helps our team, affects anything that has to do with us, then I will name it.
So Kyle Shanahan's still messing with us, although it seems
ridiculous. Coaches are just so. I mean, they just are so ridiculous. I would hate to be married to a football coach. They're absurd human beings.
Although it does seem like Jimmy Garoppolo is the choice for the Niners. Bucs head coach Bruce Arians has made his own COVID rules for road trips after kicker Ryan Suckup tested positive after a dinner last week with the Titans, whose head coach Mike Vrabel has COVID. Even vaccinated Buccaneers now can't leave the team hotel or have family visit them. Arians can do this because league protocols include the qualification, quote, subject to individual club rules. So you can tack on things if you want, and he is tacking on these things. Imani Bates, the number 3 college basketball recruit, picked Memphis yesterday. He originally committed to Michigan State, but backed out of that, then reclassified into this season. Bates picked the Tigers over the Spartans, Oregon, and the G League. The MLS All-Stars beat Mexico's All-Stars 3-2 on penalty kicks last night in L.A. New England Revolution goalie Matt Turner named MVP after 2 saves in the shootout. And some sports media news this morning. ESPN has removed Rachel Nichols from all its NBA programming, including canceling The Jump, which she hosted. Nichols is not expected to appear on any ESPN show over the final year of her contract. All of this after leaked audio of critical comments of former colleague Maria Taylor. DA, back to you.
What a bizarre situation that ended up being, because you had Maria Taylor and ESPN in negotiations, I think. It seemed like that. And then the leaked audio came out, and then Maria Taylor ends up finishing off her ESPN career and then leaving for NBC, getting a huge contract. And she's excellent at what she does, so you could understand why NBC would want her. But then it seemed like, okay, well, ESPN's reinstituting Rachel Nichols into the fray. They had her working again after the NBA Finals, and then suddenly they pull the plug and say, you're out of here. We're going to pay you to go away. They're paying her final year of salary and not even letting her on the air, and they're pulling the plug on her show. So it makes you wonder, did they have this plan all along? Was it the leaked audio that changed all of their plans? I don't know. The whole thing seems so curious to me, don't you think?
Well, and don't forget, to excuse nothing that Rachel Nichols said about Maria Taylor, this began with somebody at ESPN recording her, she not knowing her camera was on at the bubble in Disney World, and then sharing the audio and the video to kind of, to make her look bad. And then when they try to make the two of them work together, they were on NBA programming, but they made sure that they never actually interacted. Like Taylor would throw to packages, but not mention Rachel, and Nichols would never be live taking the throw. So they had this very complicated setup to keep them separate because of all of this, starting with accidental mean comments over an open mic that she didn't know was open.
Yeah, it was very bizarre. Then also that ESPN knew that these comments had happened for a year. These things had happened last year during the bubble. So did they know then they didn't want to continue with Rachel's contract? Did they not think it was that big a deal until it became public? I mean, it really makes you wonder what the internal workings of all this was. And then why, if they were just going to cut bait with Rachel and pay her to go away, did they even put her back on the air after the NBA Finals? That seems bizarre. So very curious situation there. They're both very good at what they do, but the whole thing is very curious. When we come back here on the show, Aaron Rodgers has some comments about coming back in shape for training camp, even though he was out doing his whole vacation thing in Hawaii and not being around the team. But his words put up antenna here from the DA show, wondering, does this mean he hates a certain group of people? We're going to have those audio comments for you coming up next and dissect as only the DA show can do. This is CBS Sports Radio.
It's the DA Show on CBS Sports Radio.
46 minutes past the hour. Thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate you being with us on a fine Thursday morning. Your phone number is as follows, 855-212-4227, or on Twitter. Follow me and tweet at me, DA on CBS.
Oh, okay.
Remember, you can tell your smart speaker to play CBS Sports Radio by Odyssey and listen to us as you get your day started around the house. Coming up next hour, my debut Tasty Top 5. And researching the games of the teams has got my juices flowing for college football season. Got to admit. I mean, researching San Jose State, New Mexico State, UTEP, getting ready for Tasty Top 5. Now you know we're back into the throes of college football.
I'm tasty.
But yesterday, Aaron Rodgers said something that we here on the DA show felt it was very important to discuss. He was discussing coming back into training camp after having all of that time away from the team to clear his head, as he said, to be in a good mental space. Remember those pictures from Hawaii with his girlfriend? He was really living the life, doing Jeopardy fill-in gigs. He was not around football. And so the question was, coming back to the field, did you feel like you could just jump back in and get right back to where you were? And Aaron Rodgers could have said, just wanted to get my rhythm back, my timing back, wanted to make sure I was in the right headspace to get back. But he used verbiage that put the antenna up specifically on this show and, particularly speaking, the executive producer of the DA show. Let me play for you this clip from the Pat McAfee show on Sirius XM, and let's discuss which words he uses here.
And I told you what I said in my press conference. I don't know what's going to happen in the next few weeks, but I'm getting ready as if I'm going to play. Because I had to. I mean, you don't do it the other way. You don't show up to camp, fat as out of shape. You got to make sure you're ready to rock and roll. I mean, AJ, I don't think there's a time you ever did that because all you eat is like chicken, but.
Okay, so this is so interesting. If I've learned anything from Mraz, and it's not much, but I have learned some things. One thing is avoid, if you can, using the F word. that overweight people do not like that word. And trying to be the sensitive, open-hearted person that I am, I have tried to avoid using the F word. Now, I'll be honest. Look, I'm like anybody. I'm a completely fallible human being. I have my own weaknesses, flaws, my old habits die hard, and I have used the F word at times.
Fat.
But over the years, I've learned that not being somebody overweight, it can be hurtful if I use the F word.
Fat.
Mraz has taught me if you are the F word, you can use the F word. If you're not, it's hurtful.
Fat.
Did I get that right?
Essentially, it's just coming from somebody who doesn't struggle with weight and is thin. It's a 3-letter, strong, emphatic word that feels like you're being stabbed with a knife. So damn fat.
Well, and the F, much like the actual F word of vulgarity, there is something, aggressive about.
Yeah, it's like starting a lawnmower, right? Fat. Yeah, I can say it. Yeah, exactly.
And it does release some pressure, and so it can be aggressive. So Mraz says don't use the F word for overweight people.
Especially, DA, and this has to be said, I'm sorry, we're aware we're fat. So like that's not, when you use that word so emphatically, you're not breaking any news.
I don't know if everybody is. I don't know if all of the F words are. I think some think they're not that F word.
F words are. Yes, I do think when they go home in their own mirror, they're aware. They may not care.
Well, we're doing the whole thing about not body shaming and the whole thing about be comfortable with who you are. That's a whole big thing in America now. Make sure that you're not shaming anybody, yada, yada, yada. So if you are being taught that your body shape is all good no matter what, I don't know. You can go home after your third cheeseburger and look in the mirror and not think that it was any big deal, even if you got a couple rolls.
Yeah, until you wake up and you're out of breath walking down the stairs.
Well, I think there's a lot of Americans that actually don't think that's that big a deal. I mean,
maybe
you don't watch TV and you see Larry the Cable Guy just slamming corn dogs and saying, if you have heartburn, don't worry about it. Just take this pill. Don't stop eating those corn dogs. Just take this little pill. We want you to keep being fat, even if you got that fat coming up. Sorry, I used the wrong word.
No, that is fat. You're not calling somebody fat. That is fat.
If you have the fat that's coming down from the biceps.
Yeah, the water wings.
The water wings, and you're still going to the Minnesota State Fair and absolutely crushing deep-fried Oreos, do you really think you're the F word?
I am very loose. You might be right. Yeah, I mean, because there's somebody out there who eats a stick of fried butter, right? Like that happens at the Texas State Fair.
That does happen.
So you're right. I mean, maybe I'm just viewing it from my prism and fellow Chunkosaurus Rexes as myself.
Chunkosaurus Rex, yeah.
That we are aware.
So in this case, though, Aaron Rodgers is not calling somebody else the F word. He just says, I can't come into camp F as bleep.
Fat as
It's in how you say it.
Now, I'm going to defer to you. To me, it's interesting that he used a curse word with the F word. Okay, that's F as bleep.
Fat as
it does feel kind of overly aggressive, but he's not calling anybody else the F word.
No, he's referencing himself. So I'm not going to overly crush Rodgers except for this. I know that he's trying to say something good fun, but it's how he views himself, right? Like, he could have said, I don't want to come in out of shape. But by going to the, I don't want to come in fat as bleep, that means, to me, psychologically, he walks around and he sees people who he views as fat as bleep, and he says, I'm not going to be that guy. I'm not going to be that waste, which takes us back to his stiff arm of me at a bar in Scottsdale, Arizona.
Oh, wow, you connected to that.
I do. I'm sorry, I'm going to connect it back. He saw a picture of me literally being fat as bleep.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, almost butt naked, covered in birdseed, rolls over rolls. And when we talked about him being personable with other people and stiff-arming me away, why? He didn't want to see somebody, in his mind, fat as bleep. He walks around using that word. And I think he's disgusted by fat people.
Wow. Well, I had not connected the dots, but you know what? You make a very, very valid point here. Also, there's no way Aaron Rodgers could ever be F as bleep. There's no way. I mean, he's going to come to he's going to come to camp 10 pounds overweight. Okay, what is that? That might be a little belly, maybe a little moob.
That's not fat as bleep.
No, it's not F as bleep.
He can't show up looking like me. I cannot be the franchise quarterback of the Packers, which means he's disgusted by people like me.
And so he's looking at himself, probably he weighs at 210, 220, something like that, maybe even less, 190.
My third grade weight.
Maybe he's 180, 190, and he's going to come in at 210 or 205 and think that that's fat as F as bleep.
Well, you're talking about him in context. I'll allow that. It's a moving goalpost here.
What did Aaron Rodgers say?
Fat as
Got it. When we come back, why did the Broncos choose Teddy Bridgewater? DA, CBS Sports Radio.
Moist breasts exploding.
Fat as
We're all on this planet together. So join Odyssey and find your one thing. August is a great month to help out the environment by improving your gas mileage. Make sure your tires are properly inflated, and heavy items like golf clubs aren't stored in your trunk. Take your car in for a tune-up to ensure it's running at peak performance. And when the weather is nice, walk or bike to your destination to enjoy a beautiful summer day. Join Odyssey, and together, each of us doing one thing makes a greener tomorrow. What's your one thing?
You want to know what Wagertainment is? It's the picks, the analysis, the information, mixed with the laughter and the entertainment, smart sports betting content that'll put a smile on your face.
The BetQL Network, streaming live each day and helping you bet smarter.
If you're a sports fan, you know why you should listen. It's sports betting content without the BS. No hot takes, no nonsense.
The BetQL Network, streaming live right now on Odyssey.
Sports, bets, and entertainment.
Coming September 1st, Rewind 9/11.
Today, we've had a national tragedy.
An incredible plane crash into the World Trade Center.
A look back at the tragedy of that day.
Another explosion has taken place at the Pentagon.
It became very apparent that what was happening was terrorism.
Fox News presents Rewind 9/11.
The people who knocked these buildings down will hear all of us soon.
Listen on Odyssey.